Welcome to the December edition of Let's Talk About It. This month's topic, conservation. Now, a lot of times with anglers out there, the conservation topic can be kind of a four-letter word, right? I mean, it's not something that I think it's kind of such a spooky conversation, maybe, or it comes with it, some different thoughts that maybe this conversation or this topic is held by one side of the political spectrum over another. That's hogwash, dude. That's right, I said hogwash. The idea that conservation isn't something that every one of us needs to pay attention to and every one of us needs to do our part is absurd, because we do. I mean, it's just the way the agricultural community has been using conservation methods since the inception, since the beginning. They have to. It's their livelihood. They need to learn how to use the land properly and not exhaust it, not wipe it out. So that's conservation, is the sustainability, right? It's how do we work together with Mother Nature. Now, specifically speaking to angling and fishing, trying to make that definition of what does that look like? What is it? It's pretty simple. I'll tell you, you can go down a rabbit hole in a hurry online on a quick Google search. But I did a Google search here, and the funny thing is, the best definition I've seen yet came from the National Geographic website. Their definition of conservation is the act of protecting Earth's natural resources for current and future generations. Now, I don't know what this says about me, but this was designed for grades 5 to 8, this definition here. But to me personally, it's one of the best definitions yet, because it's general enough that it encompasses all areas, but yet it's poignant and factual enough that it really gets the point across. We're talking about doing things to protect the resources that we enjoy using. For anglers, I don't care if you're just an occasional angler, recreational, weekend tournaments, regional tournaments, national tournaments, pro level, I don't care. Wherever you go, those fisheries and the wildlife that surrounds them, within them, the natural life in them, around them, those are your resources. And this brings us to the first piece in this. In order for us to take this topic serious, we have to all get on the same page of something, and that is this. These resources are not infinite. We can burn them up, we can exhaust them, we can drain them to the point of ill repair, meaning they won't come back. That can happen. The human species is enough of a leech that we have that ability if we don't pay attention to what we're doing. This conversation, I want to speak, like I said, directly, more specifically to just the angler, the portion of this. What can we do? Because that's really where this thing gets boiled down. I want to make this easy, all right? There are so many steps and things that we can do as anglers, tournament anglers, recreational anglers. If you're kayak, if you're big boat, doesn't matter, okay? There's things we can do that truly help. If you've not experienced a body of water that is feeling drained on its resources, I can tell you it's a very disheartening and saddening situation. I know there's a couple anglers out there that are on the Table Rock Lake area that can tell you, from 30 years ago when they fished compared to now, there's been a major change there, and that is a fantastic, large, just a robust fishery there. And even it has, felt the effects. We've got kind of a perfect storm that's all come together with this. Number one, population increase. Okay, like in the last 50 years, I don't have the exact numbers on this, so I'm not going to quote any one area, but I want to say that like in the last 50, 60 years, I think the population on the planet has doubled. Something staggering to that effect. We could look that up, but I know it's a very high number. So there's more people than there ever has been. Especially now, add in the COVID past couple of years, more people are engaging in the outdoors than ever before, for a myriad of reasons, right? I mean, there's lots of reasons why they would and should, but they are now. Angling specific technology information is more robust than it ever has been. The science backing on how to catch fish. There are bigger fish being caught. There are more fish being caught. There are more tournament anglers than ever before, from just about every level. So when you think about this, the pressure that we're placing on these fisheries is just increasing, and it's not going to slow down. Man, it's going to keep going, right? And so now is way past the time, but now's the time that we can each individually start doing our part out there. And that's really what I want to cover here, is some of these things that you can do that don't cost you hardly anything, and it just takes a little bit of time to basically do your part to help protect these fisheries and make sure that we're living with the environment and not whacking it and destroying it. Dude, the high school teams, the collegiate teams, they're counting on guys, and gals. They're counting on this generation of anglers right now that's out there on those big, small, medium stages. They're counting on us to make sure to do our part to protect them, so they have a place to go compete and they can live out their dreams. First step, one of the first things you can do. Let's talk about our gear, okay? First and foremost, if you got a new boat, old boat, John boat, kayak, I don't care. Submarine, it don't matter. First and foremost thing you need to do to be help and do your part in conservation is keep your gear maintained. Okay, what I mean by maintained, I mean it's not leaking oil, dude. If you got hydraulics anywhere, trim motors, power steering, power poles, anything, make sure these lines are tight. Make sure they're not leaking. Go through, do the service yourself, have a buddy come over, do the service, take it to your local service center. I don't care, but whatever you have to do, service these lines. Make sure that your boat is not leaking two-cycle oil or gasoline or anything that you utilize. Okay? The last thing people want to see is you go out on your local little fresh body of water there and looking like the Exxon Valdez behind you. You got this little film, a trail. That's just inexcusable, and that's something you can do. So first and foremost, take your off-season time, take the winter time, service your rig, right? Get through your equipment there and make sure your lines are tight, you don't have rotted lines, things of this nature. Second piece you can do with this, clean your gear, okay? In line with that, if you got a transom or a trolling motor, or a motor itself is building up gunk and all kinds of crap on the back, this and that, dude, there are so many inexpensive, cheap products you can either purchase or make yourself. Brian Latimer put out one of the best cleaning solutions. He talked about it. That's where I learned about this, and I use this for hard water stains, for gunk, grime, anything. It basically does the majority of the scrubbing. Take 3 equal parts of cleaning vinegar. That's important. Use the cleaning kind. Cleaning vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, and Dawn dish soap. Dude, mix that stuff together there. Spray that stuff on, let it sit for 30 seconds or so. Take a little brush, scrub it on off. You can it darn near falls off on its own. Clean that stuff up, because a lot of times that film you see coming off of the back is just stuff that's been caked on the motor. Do your part, clean that stuff up. On the topic of cleaning, when you get off your favorite body of water, your home waters, new water, I don't care if you're 2 miles from home or 2,000 miles from home, when you leave a body of water, make sure you are cleaning that boat off. Now, I'm not talking about taking an hour and hand scrub it. No, you can take a rag, you can take a brush, wipe the hull down there. Just make sure stuff is off the hull, that you're not transporting it to another body of water. Make sure your trailer's clean. You got no vegetation hanging and dangling around that stuff, or mussels or anything else. Invasive species piece, that is a huge, huge killer of these local bodies of water. Where we're invasive species, meaning you're taking something foreign taking something that's native to one body of water, and you're inadvertently and involuntarily transporting it to another body of water when you touch down there with your trailer or whatever. Now it's an invasive species, because if it didn't belong there before, now that local, environment there is going to have to deal with whatever that is, be it zebra mussels, milfoil, you name it. We can do our part by making sure that our boats are cleaned off. Tournament anglers, if you got fish in the live well, anybody, if you got fish in the live well that day from that dealer, make sure you rinse and run your recirculating pumps, your drain pumps. Rinse that stuff out. Make sure it's clean before you go to the next body of water and set it up. These simple little tactics right here, there's really no excuse that we can't do this, okay? And you're doing a huge step moving forward. You're doing your part to make sure this stuff doesn't cause problems further down the line. Moving from the gear piece into tackle. All right, there is no excuse for balls, a fishing line, extra line, things of this nature being left in the water, okay? That's just being a slug if you're doing that, okay? Go to whatever lengths you need to go to, as long as your safety is adhered to, and make sure there's no extra fishing line. You're not leaving fishing line. If you see fishing line in the water and you can safely remove it, do so. Get it the heck out of there. It's bad on the environment. It's bad for the species that live in the environment. It causes problems. There's all kinds of videos out there that'll show you what the stuff does, how it tangles up birds, tangles up aquatic creatures and so forth. Just don't do it, okay? Throw it in the trash, in your boat, in your kayak, in your pocket, in your hat. I don't care where. Don't leave that extra stuff in there. Which takes me to the other side, plastics, soft plastics. We use a ton of them. Listen, fish are going to throw some soft plastics, man. When they're fighting, they're kicking, sometimes these things just fling off there, okay? So there's some things we can't control. Some things are just going to occur in the process. But when you're changing out a trailer, changing out, whatever it is, moving to a different color, whatever, don't throw that stuff overboard, dude. Put that stuff in the trash can, all right? Put it in a bag, put it in your pocket, put it in your hat. I don't care where you put it up your nose. Just don't throw it back in the water, right? Keep the amount of soft plastics out of there as much as we can. In line with that, two other pieces here that in line with this gear. Now I know this one's kind of controversial. Some guys don't like hearing about this, but it's a silly move that we have to try to get away from, and that is purposely breaking off snagged up lures and lines. There will come a time where we won't have an option, right? Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you just can't get rid of it. But when you're making a choice, because let's say you pitched in shallow or whatever, you threw in shallow and you got hung up, and you still think there's a fish in there, but you don't want to go in there and get that lure out of there because you're afraid you'll spook the fish in there. Listen, chances are, first off, you already did. Number two, come on, dude. At this point, do what's right. You got to make the choice. I don't care if you're talking $10,000, tournament. Money's not the deciding factor in this. What's the deciding factor is if you can unsnag a lure and you can make sure it doesn't get broke off in there, then go get it. All right. Do your part. Go get it. Come back later. Let that place settle down after you get it. Come back and you'll probably have a shot at getting to something. And if not, don't get snagged up, right? I mean, that's really, unfortunately, when snags happen, they happen. It's not a great thing. It sucks. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes it's very avoidable. My point is, though, is that purposely leaving lures behind just impacts the setup and the damage even more, because there's already that given section of times where it's going to happen no matter what we do, right? It's beyond our control in some case. Sometimes things just get snagged. Sometimes, a toothy critter grabs a hold of it or pulls you across a rock or across a underwater pipe or something that's sharp and it snaps off. Those things are going to happen, and you may not be able to control that directly. So on the times that you can control it, do so, right? Do your part there. That's another one of those conservation pieces. Along with that, pick up trash that you see out there, dude. I don't know how many times when I go out to these lakes, I don't care where, if I'm in Indiana, Wisconsin, Texas, Oklahoma, it doesn't matter where. When you go out there, you're going to find like those live bait styrofoam containers. You see those, you see bad chip bags, you see pop cans, whatever it is. To be honest with you, that's where my net gets used most of the time, more than anything, is picking trash up that or getting my hat back that blows off. The taking that extra few seconds there just to grab an extra minute, whatever it is, to grab that trash, throw it in the trash in your boat or wherever, is just, again, just smart stuff. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're probably not one of those guys or anglers that actually purposely does throw trash in the water. And so obviously we don't need to state the obvious there, but nevertheless, just make sure that, if you see it, do something about it. Don't just turn away and walk away from it, because that's where, what are things we can do, what are things we can't do. Talking about it's great, but getting boots on the ground and getting out there and doing something about it, that's where action takes place. Let's say here, The other piece, encourage others to follow in line with this. Don't be a Karen, right? I mean, don't be a Kevin, what do they call the male version? Don't need to be aggressive about it, but encourage others to take a part in the conservation piece. It's worth our while when we can start looking at this going, hey man, I want to make sure these fisheries, things we love doing, are here for generations to come. I mean, that's a very traditional conservative approach to things, don't you think? Is making sure that we can carry on these traditions. Talk to people and they tell you about their past, some of the best stories they share with you, going fishing with grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles, brothers, sisters, mom and dad, whoever. And they could maybe only have gone fishing a handful of times, but they have fond memories of it. There's a reason, and engaging in the outdoors. So we want to preserve the outdoors, preserve what we have the best we can, learn how to live with it and not just destroy it. Two last pieces here that can be a little tough on the angling side to get people to buy into on this. First and foremost, we know for a fact that lead has a toxic impact the longer it stays in the water. Specifically lead weights, lead and lures that are made with lead. When they break off or they stay in the body of water, we know that over time when they deteriorate, they release toxins into the water itself. So much that we know this, that there's an initiative out there, getting the lead out. They want to get the lead out of fishing tackle, out of ammunition for hunting, just because of its effects. And so they've been trying to come up with alternatives. One of the best alternatives that's been proposed on the fishing side is tungsten. Okay, now this is going to sound like a shameless plug, but look past that if you can for a second, because I want to speak directly just to the topic here, and that is tungsten offers so many benefits. We all know it. If you use it once, you realize exactly. I mean, first and foremost, it's far more dense. So a size of a quarter ounce, drop shot weight, like so, is met by a tungsten one that's about that size, same weight, because it's just far more dense. That density translates to more sensitivity. So for those of us that like getting that feedback when we're dragging those weights around the bottom or we're moving them, we can tell, are we in gravel, are we on rock, are we on wood, are we in grass? You can actually feel, and you get used to it after a while, what that feels like. That's the sensitivity and the density piece. Tungsten it'll make you a better angler at the end of the day. The problem with tungsten's been the cost, right? And then here comes the shameless plug piece. That's not really an issue anymore. There are options available out there for you to get top line quality made tungsten at extremely comparable prices. I went to one of the nation's top bass tackle retailers out there. I went to one of their two websites that they have available out there to you and looked up the cost on some drop shot skinny, the long ones, drop shot, quarter ounce weight. A 5-pack came in at like $5, so that puts a 10-pack at $10. You can get from NACO, you can get a 10-pack of NACO tungsten, quarter ounce drop shot weights for like $12.99. Dude, that's a $3 difference. Okay, for most guys, one 10-pack, maybe two 10-packs is gonna set them up for the season. Okay, on that stuff. Some guys, maybe then you need a couple more, but we're talking $3 a package difference. Okay, that is when you really boil that down, dude, that is just non-existent for it to be such a better alternative, or at least the best alternative that we have right now to lead. The only way manufacturers are going to stop making lead out there is when, for the most part, when we stop buying it. And that's how we can start to change this over and see a rolling, momentum into another direction. So that's the piece there. You've got options for tungsten. It's not as expensive. Some places are expensive, but just know that you have alternatives out there that you can get quality top line tungsten at affordable pricing. You don't have to break the bank, and you can start making your roll over. Follow us basically to learn more about that for sure. And last but not least, here's the big one. There are numerous studies that have been going on for 50, 60 years out there since like bass was created, back in the old days of the tournament bass angling, they were guys were bringing in 15 fish, 10 fish in their live well, this and that, and weighing them. I mean, that was the, you were getting judged based on those numbers, as opposed to, it hasn't always been 5 fish. Right now, 5 big fish, that's the majority of them out there. They put them in the live well and they get it done. These studies on the mortality rate, what sort of, mortality impact do we have on fish that we live well them for the day, run them around the lake, come and weigh them, put them on a release boat and send them back into a different section of the lake than where we got them. What we know to this point, just about every one of the studies will show this, is that the mortality rate of these fish, the bigger they are and the hotter the water, the higher the mortality rate is. That's what we know for sure. These fish, I don't care if you got the best live well on the planet, like we believe we do in the Guardian live well system in our boat, and you've used all the good additives in the world. If it's hot water and they're bigger, older fish, they don't have a good chance of surviving after they get released. It may look like they do, but within 1 to 5 days after that, there's a good chance that a high percentage of those fish, a ridiculously high percentage of those fish, end up perishing from that shock of what took place with them there. So we know that to be true. Now we don't know, with like spring or fall, temperature waters, young fish, that there's just not enough study out there to show. But I think it's safe to say that while we may not know about a mortality factor in there, I think it doesn't take a group of scientists to tell you the fact that you're changing something with them, right? I mean, if you live in, say, Indiana, and I drive out there in my pickup and I pick you up, I throw you in the back of the truck, and I drive you all the way off and drop you in Seattle, Washington, and say, all right, good luck. I mean, obviously something's going to be a little different, right? So if I'm 40 miles up a river, or I'm, 10 miles up a river whatsoever, and I'm catching fish and I'm bringing them back, and then we're letting them loose, down by the cove that we weighed in at, clearly we're doing something. We're impacting them on some level there, right? So that, I don't think you can disagree with. We just don't know what the lasting effects are of those things, but we know we're interfering with them somewhere. This is where we need to start being open to talking about the possibility of change in this approach, to make sure that we can, again, become sustainable. We're not impacting it so bad. We're not hurting it. We're living with it. The kayak bass fishing leagues out there that I've seen, the 3 linear national ones, and of course kayak bass fishing all the way around, and then of course the Bass Pro Tour, has shown us that with enough will and resources, there are different ways we can do this, okay? The kayak bass fishing is a catch, measure, release format, right? Bass Pro Tour is the catch, photo, release. That's what they're doing. The catch, measure, release format basically shows a picture of the fish being measured. Its length is what's judged, not its weight. And they move on, and there are national champions being crowned and double-digit monies being won. And it's a singular piece. There's enough fail-safes built into this that keeps everything even and fair across the board. This can be done. You know what I mean? I mean, there are options here to be done. At the highest level, the marshalling capabilities can be done. Now, you may not like the Bass Pro Tour format, which is fine. I personally think it's fantastic. I love any format of competition there. But nevertheless, the concept, though, of not keeping these 5 fish in there, people talk about, well, it's for the fans this, for the fans that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not quite sure. We could. There are other ways that the fans could get on board with this. If you love your sport, you probably should love when your sport is trying to do something to protect the very resources that you yourself enjoy. As opposed to being part of the problem, we should be part of the solution, I think. And so fans, I think, if approached properly and educated on the right level, I think the majority would fully understand and get it, that your moment to sit there and see a pair of green fish picked up on a stage does not outweigh that of the importance of us in our sport learning how to not impact our fisheries so drastically or negatively. At some point, there's got to be some deal there. A long time ago I was taught that minds are like parachutes. Our brains, they're like parachutes. They're kind of pointless unless they're opened. And that really is the truth. We need to, the moment we get open to discussion, is when we're going to start finding ways. We may not have the answers right now, and that's okay. That's all right. Maybe we don't know how to do this at the grassroots level. That's fine. But as long as we get an open mind to say, well, let's have a discussion. Let's start throwing some things around here, and let's see what we can spitball together. I think when we all start focusing together and working there, that's when you're going to see positive change being acted. But before we can get there, we just got to be, accept it here that, hey man, it's important. It's important that we do our part. It's important that I want to see longevity in the sport. I want to see the sport expand, see the sport becoming responsible, ethically responsible for what we're doing out there, and that we're not, fulfilling some self-defining prophecy of just the good old boy network that doesn't really care about anything and everything around it other than just this is the way we've done it for 50 years, the way we're going to keep doing it. The average lifespan used to be like 40 some odd years old as well, but thankfully we got smart and allowed some better minds to take over there, and now we see a total difference there. So I think that's really, at the end of the day, that's what this whole thing's about. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this one here. Appreciate you hanging out for the extended version of this. We're going to release this one completely separate from the December issue, but if you got any comments, questions, you agree, disagree, other topics you want, smash the like, smash the subscribe, and throw it in the comments below. Tight lines, be safe.